back to the 27. Patch 1.3.3.0 is here, and it includes this bad boy, the Reynard 2KI Ford Cosworth. I'm going to do an overview of all of the cars, the track that's included. I'm going to put a dirty setup together for this and take it out at Road America for a couple laps. Stick around. First things first, rounding out Racing USA Part 2 is the 1998 kart season. It includes 7 different kart models, 3 Lolas, and 4 Reynards. The big difference between these cars is they all have different engine manufacturers. Ford Cosworth, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, and I believe a Honda. There it is right there. All of them have different torque curves, different horsepower. The chassis have different aero strengths and weaknesses, so all of these cars should feel unique. Also included the Formula Retro Generation 3. This is modeled after the 1983 Formula One season. It includes 2 generic versions and then a fully licensed McLaren MP4-1C. With regards to the generics, one of them is naturally aspirated, a little bit more user-friendly. One has a massive spool turbo that will knock your socks off. If you want to learn how to steer with the throttle, this is the car to do it on. These are all very, very much uniquely different, and they're a lot of fun. Rounding out Racing USA Part 2 track-wise, it's finally here, Road America. It's arguably the greatest road racing course in the United States and on par with the renowned courses from around the world. It's really high speed, 3 straightaways, and some other interesting track features, including blind curves, a carousel. Karts can reach 200 miles an hour after the main straight, but this track layout has been used for 70 years without change. They've only added a little bend for an autocross and track days, and they added another section over here. But other than that, this track has been in use consistently without modification. All right, so as promised, I put together a dirty setup for the Reynard Ford Cosworth here at Road America. And what do I mean by dirty setup? Well, it's based completely on feel and principle alone. No telemetry involved, just noticing things on track and making a few changes. I'm going to go over some of the settings and describe why I did them. Here, first in the front ducts, I open them up a little bit. The front left tire gets a little hot. I'd like to cool that down a bit. I felt that the car needed a little bit more front downforce, so I added 2 clicks. They go in half click increments, I guess. So it goes to 26. I would recommend that. The longitudinal weight bias. Now this is something that most people probably don't change, but I moved this back about a full percentage from 55 to 56, and what this does, it allows the car a little bit more freedom on corner entry and kind of stabilizes the exit. So anytime you see a car with a rearward weight bias like this, let it be known that it'll corner really well on entry. Moving on to the suspension tab. Now, this is interesting because this is a car with a third element. This is a complicated racing machine, and third elements add a degree of visual complexity, but to be honest, it really helps you out as a driver because you really can separate the mainsprings from other components. Now, as you know, the mainsprings handle a lot of different things, but when you put a third element spring in there, it takes a lot of the responsibility off of the car. So let's go through off of the mainsprings. So let's go through some of the settings changes. I increased the caster from 9 to 10 degrees. That moves the front wheels forward a little bit. I increased the camber angle on the front left tire, and this is basically the for the carousel alone. I wanted to get that traction around the carousel. The spring rates, and this is the biggest deviation that I had with the defaults, I changed the spring rates on the main springs by quite a bit. So I reduced it to 100 Newton millimeters on the front and 90 on the rear. It's all symmetrical. And then I did some minor bump stop work. But the main thing here is the third element. And because I reduced the spring rate on the main springs from, I think it was 180 to 100, I had to replace that stiffness. What the third element does is it keeps the car steady on pitch. The roll is handled by the anti-roll bars now, leaving the main springs to be free to handle track features and grip the tarmac better with a softer, more grippy package. So what I did is I increased the third spring on the front, I increased the third spring on the back, I increased the bump stops as well. The anti-roll bars I also increased, so I pretty much bolstered up the third element altogether, and that frees up the wheels. As far as the damping is concerned, and this looks mind-boggling, I'm sure, if this is the first time you've ever looked at it, but the rule of thumb is the stronger the spring, the stronger the damper. So with the third element here, the front third element spring is 160, so I wanted to keep that damping at the highest rate. The next strongest spring is the third spring on the rear. So I have 7,000 newton meters per second and 9,000 on rebound. And then we just go down the line. 100 newton meters, it's a little bit softer. 90 newton meters, a little bit softer. And then as far as high-speed damping, that's hard to really tell after just doing a couple of laps. But the rule of thumb here is you want to have traction everywhere you think you need it. And these cars don't really do that much curb work, especially at Road America. So a stable package is important. I like to keep the rebound stronger on the third element, mainly because of something called you don't want the car to be jacking. So what does that mean? It means when you're going over high-speed bumps, if the bump phase is stiffer than the rebound, the car will have a tendency to want to lift up. In an aero car, you want it to have a tendency to jack down. So what it makes it do is it makes it hard. It makes the car harder to extend the wheel out so the aero forces the car back onto the track, and that's exactly what you're looking for. I feel like this package does a really good job as a baseline. You might be able to apply it to the other cars as well. You'd have to make minor aero adjustments because all the cars are different. Finally, with the drivetrain tab, I did tinker with the differential a little bit. I reduced the preload. I locked the power ramp by decreasing the ramp angle, and I unlocked the coast ramp by increasing the ramp angle. The coast ramp unlocking gives it a little bit more freedom on corner entry. The power ramp locking keeps those cars, the rear tires underneath you. But you got to watch out for snap oversteer if you overdo it. I kept the clutch plates the same. The preload, I just based that on the feel between the two ramp angles, and that's how I tuned the preloads. So let's take a look at this car at Road America. The beautiful blue skies at Road America, Wisconsin, USA, as the clouds roll through. What a wonderful track. And one of the things I like about what they're doing with the tracks nowadays is these real life sponsors, WeatherTech, TireRack.com, NTT. A lot of detail is going into these tracks, and you can tell. But look at this inside the Reynard here. It looks like a stamped metal plate, some type of license. It's got information on it, including the town, Bicester, England, and a telephone number. These are details you just don't get everywhere. And one of you guys in England, give that number a call if you can read it and tell me who you get hooked up with. So we're in the Reynard Ford Cosworth here. I've only driven 2 of the 7 models, and I feel like the Ford already has a little bit more top-end torque than the Honda does. So off the line, it's a little bit different. Oh, and this is another great one. Sargento, we're real cheese people. I'm sure a lot of people in the forums will appreciate that, especially lately. I'm definitely in the cheese lovers category. Really great corner here, surprisingly slow, but blind, backed up by you have to trust yourself on this corner. Full beans. And then a slow second hander to one of the most difficult corners on the track, and that's the carousel. About half throttle, 3/4 throttle, halfway through, and then full beans right here. And then trust yourself. Trust the aero. This is the kink. Now back over here, interesting fun fact, there is a set of train tracks that runs parallel to this straight section, and that's modeled, as far as I know. And then finally, the last really cool corner here is this blind left-hander before the ultimate corner, which sneaks up on you, by the way. You're going to feel so impressed with yourself when you take that penultimate corner by going full beans that you're going to forget to brake for the last corner. Let's see if we can get to 325 here. Close. So far, the car feels really nice with this base setup. I can hear some bottom outs here. I'd like to clean that up at some point as well. But the aero feels pretty consistent, and I like the feeling of the soft main springs for sure. It just adds something special to the force feedback. But this is a build you could probably definitely take to the other cars, and it's not necessarily specific to Road America. The philosophy can be translated for sure. One of the things that I did do that was a little bit different I didn't mention on the setup overview was the gearing. I changed 5th and 6th gear, made them a little bit longer, so you get a little bit more headroom at the end of these straights. You don't want to be redlining and you're not in the draft, right? So give yourself a couple of lights of headroom. But this is great, man. Trust yourself. Let's try to do a good lap here. I think I was hitting 140s, low 140s. See what we can get. The cars will punish you if you throttle too aggressively. Cheese! But it's part of the fun. Ah! Blind. Trust yourself. Too much curb. Oh, lovely. Not too bad, tire temp wise. Yeah, the front left is going to take a beating here no matter what you do. I'd really have to do a lot more work on it. Oh, this is a great car, man. Trust yourself. This is a hard corner for me. I don't know why. All right, that I think is a solid lap. Oh! Does that say 138.9? Yeah. Try this setup, guys. This track is great. Look at that. LEDs. Fantastic work. Man, I love it here. And I'm not saying that because I'm American. I'm saying that because I love it here, and this is a fantastic track. Man, I can't wait till they fill out all the crowds. They're going to come to see me. Hey, guys. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. More content to come, and in the meantime, take care. Cheese!